Okay, so welcome to another deep dive.
Hmm.
Today we are going to be kind of wading into some interesting waters.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at something that popped up on the Joe Rogan experience recently. And this is something that kind of got a lot of attention online. We're
Hmm.
going to be using a YouTube video from the Ring of Fire to kind of guide our
I see.
discussion.
I see.
And the topic itself is, shall we say, interesting. It's this idea that was
Fairly,
floated
okay.
about the United States potentially annexing Canada and Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
it's one of those things where, whether or not it's actually feasible or even like a good idea
Yeah.
is kind of beside the point for us today.
Right.
What we're really interested in is how this idea was presented and, kind of the arguments
Yeah, yeah.
that were made against it. So we're kind of trying to give you a sense of like this whole conversation that's been happening.
Okay, so like a snapshot of the public discourse surrounding this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got it. So the video we're looking at from the Ring of Fire, they
Okay.
they kind of start off with this idea that people who have these huge platforms, these massive audiences like Joe Rogan,
Sure.
they have a certain responsibility when it comes to like the information they put out there and the opinions they share.
Absolutely.
And they're arguing that this whole annexation suggestion is kind of a prime example of that.
Okay.
And maybe not the most well thought out idea,
I see.
getting this huge megaphone.
Interesting. So like they're not even necessarily disagreeing with the idea itself, but more so the fact that it's being given this platform to spread.
Right. It's more about the influence and the
Okay.
platform than the idea itself,
Interesting.
at least to start with.
Yeah.
So what was this,
So what was the suggestion specifically?
what was Rogan actually suggesting according to his critique?
Yeah.
Well, the video says that he proposed that like Donald Trump should just annex Canada.
Wow.
And then like after that, dudes would move on to Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's pretty out there, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty significant proposition.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about just completely redrawing the map of North America.
Right. And not to mention, stepping on the toes of
Oh, yeah. There's a lot.
like a bunch of international laws and
So many things wrong with this.
treaties and just like basic respect for other countries' sovereignty. I mean, it's kind of wild when you think about it, like practically speaking. But, putting all that aside for a second, I mean, like historically speaking, there have been discussions about, shifting borders and
Oh, yeah.
changing territories and stuff like that for all sorts of reasons, economic reasons,
Yeah.
security,
Yeah.
ideological reasons.
Yeah.
So even though this might seem kind of out there in our current context, it's not like the idea of annexing territory is completely unheard of.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway, the video kind of points out that this whole conversation apparently started with a comment from Rogan's guest, who was Theo Vaughn.
Okay.
Um,
I'm familiar with him.
yeah, so he apparently asked, like, would Canada be like the 51st state or the 52nd state?
Oh, boy.
And the YouTube commentator just kind of like grabs onto that
Yeah.
and is like, this just shows you like the level of,
Yeah.
kind of basic civic knowledge that's
Oh, wait. Or lack thereof.
lacking here.
Yeah.
Like, you have these guys with these,
Big platforms.
and they're just like throwing out these ideas without maybe the basic understanding of.
Yeah, and so that kind of sets the stage for
Okay.
Rogan's annexation suggestion.
Gotcha.
So what was his like reasoning, I guess, for
Yeah, like what was his justification for bringing Mexico into the fold as well?
right? According to the Ring of Fire, anyway. He's quoted as saying that because people are already sneaking over.
Sneaking over the border.
Yeah.
That basically making Mexico part of the U.S. would just mean they're already Americans anyway.
Wow. So it's like he's trying to solve a complex issue with this like really overly simplistic geographical solution.
Yeah, it's like this very like surface level
Yeah.
logic that just doesn't really take into account any of the like,
Nuance.
the history, the culture,
Political reality.
all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then to make matters like even more kind of ridiculous.
Right.
Theo Vaughn's reaction to this whole thing was apparently just like, I want to be F Mexican,
Oh my goodness.
which the YouTube commentator uses as like further proof that
Hi.
this is just not a serious conversation.
Yeah, it's like they're joking about these like massive geopolitical shifts that would impact millions of people.
Yeah. So Rogan does try to like
Okay.
elaborate on his point a little bit.
Okay.
He kind of suggests like a strategy of first like making sure the U.S. is safe,
See, yeah,
and then like
exactly.
expanding that safety outward. And he does add without stripping people of the rights.
Oh, so he does acknowledge the rights aspect at least?
Yeah, but it's very like fleeting.
Yeah, like a brief nod to the human rights implications.
Right. And the YouTube commentator doesn't seem very convinced by that.
Okay.
Um, so then we get to like the heart of their response.
Oh, okay.
They do not hold back.
No.
They basically call Rogan and Vaughn, well, they use some pretty strong language.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically say that this whole conversation is something that you'd expect to hear from like two drunken hobos under a bridge.
Wow. Okay, so they're not mincing words.
No, they are not.
It sounds like they're really concerned about the implications of this kind of talk.
Oh, yeah. They're basically saying like, you guys have these massive platforms
Yeah.
and you're just like throwing out these ridiculous ideas.
And it's being presented to millions of people.
Exactly. And their biggest fear seems to be that like someone listening to this,
Someone who maybe takes this seriously.
yeah, like some future president who they also suggest
Right.
wouldn't be the sharpest tool in the shed,
Right.
might actually try to do this.
Oh, wow. So it's like a fear of misinformation actually influencing policy.
Right. Like what if someone actually takes this seriously and tries to act on it?
That's a scary thought.
Yeah. And the video ends on a pretty like somber note.
Okay.
The commentator basically says they've lost faith and hope for the American public because we keep giving platforms
Right.
and attention to stupid people.
Wow, that's a pretty bleak outlook.
Yeah, it's not very optimistic.
No, not at all.
So that's our deep dive for today. It started by looking at this suggestion that Joe Rogan made about the U.S. annexing Canada and Mexico.
Right.
And then we kind of explored this really strong critical response from a YouTube commentator who's basically saying this is just like
Uninformed opinion.
and dangerous potentially.
Yeah, being broadcast to a huge audience.
Exactly. And it all kind of boils down to this idea that with a big platform comes a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely. Your words have power when you have that many people listening.
Right. And it kind of makes you think about like, you know, what is our responsibility as listeners to like critically evaluate what we're hearing?
Especially from these massive platforms.
Exactly. Like how do we sort through the good information and the bad information?
It's a tough question.
It really is.
It really is.
So yeah, that's something for everyone to think about.
Absolutely.
And that's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for listening.